guest. So I had the opportunity to interview Tracey from My Engine Lab for a podcast that is on our Digital Boost Live app. If you would like to listen to it, check it out. She is an expert in marketing and really has some fun and creative ways to approach it. And I'm really looking forward to today's session because we're going to be talking about competing in today's digital content economy. So content is all of the stuff that we put out there online for our customers or our followers to consume. So there should be some really good insight in today's session. Now, you might be tuning in from one of the various platforms like YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, or perhaps you're here with us on Zoom. And we'd love to get your questions answered by Tracey. And you can do that by dropping your questions in the comment section, the Q&A section, or the chat function, depending on what platform you are using today. Do make this session bespoke to you. That's why we're here. So without further ado, Tracey, thanks so much for joining me today. I have literally been looking forward to this session for so long after our podcast that we had. It was so good. So much insight.
Hi, Anna Marie.
Yeah, and I think I've stolen one of your taglines, and I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it right now because maybe you'll use it throughout the session. And if you don't, then I'm going to use it at the end. But I learned so much from that podcast. It was really fantastic to listen to. And I'd highly recommend anybody that hasn't checked it out to check it out. You do need to get the app for podcasts though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Anna Marie. I'm glad that you're using a catchphrase. Feel free. Maybe there may be a few more coming out of this session. I had such a great time talking to you on the podcast, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of Digital Boost and all the support that you're offering up to New Zealand businesses. It's amazing. And I mean, the education, the content, and the support that is coming out of Digital Boost is just fantastic. So it's such a pleasure to be here today.
I know. I feel like a bit spellbound. I'm going to let you get cracking on. I'm going to make sure everything is happening in the background. So we'll take questions at the end. So if you've got questions, drop them through the chats and all the functions throughout. Okay. Cool.
All right. Let's go. How's that? And hopefully we're all on.
Yep, it looks good. I can see your icons down the bottom, so you might just need to click onto the presentation and it'll.
Just a minute. I'll just reshare if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Great. Exciting. Well, thanks everyone for having me today. I'm Tracey Hennah from My Engine Lab, a digital marketing agency here in Auckland. And we specialise in growth and strategy, social media, content, SEO and technology. And it's such a pleasure to come and talk to you today on this particular subject. It's one that's very close to my heart and something I've been kind of fine-tuning and specialising in kind of in the last up to 20 years of my career. And it is a big subject, but it's something that hopefully I can kind of give you a top-down view of and sort of lift the lid on a few things. So I'm just going to crack into it. Some of these questions might be spinning around, your digital strategy, you may have one, but it's kind of overwhelming and you're not sure quite where to begin. Maybe you don't even have one. That's possible. You might have a loose content plan or an idea of what you want to do, but nothing sort of formulated. And maybe you've been feeling like you're being left behind and your competitors are always showing up in front of you or just pipping you just in front of you. I've worked with clients who've got a whole lot of content, but it's just not driving the results or the traffic that they need. And then, of course, there's people spending a lot of money for paid ads, which certainly has a place in your digital strategy, and I absolutely advocate for that. But you need to do it in tandem and prop it up with sort of organic activity as part of your marketing plan. So today I want to talk about something called your digital voice. It's, How vocal are you out on the digital landscape? And I really want to lift the lid on sort of art and science behind how you compete in this massive digital economy. And it's busy out there. You know, it's incredibly busy and difficult to compete, but there is a way. And it's about creating a really powerful integrated content plan. And there's a few little things that you can do to help you rise up and win in this massive content economy. So, no surprise here, the emergence of digital and what we call the information age has really just changed our worlds. It's flipped our worlds around, and we are now highly connected. We're always on, and we're in full control of where we get our info from. So, and we use multiple channels on our own terms, in our own time to get it. So we are in full control. And products and services and the choices we make around brands, they're done online in our own time, and we could be anywhere. It could be in our car, we could be at home, at the mall, and we take our time. You know, we research before we even engage with a business offering a service or a brand. And we really want to engage with brands and products that have been either recommended by people we know and trust, colleagues, friends, family members, or influencers we follow that we rate as pretty credible, or those that have organically earned their place in our search results. When we're looking online and searching, they are showing up on that page one up the top, and we see them as delivering the best authentic content or the clearest answers to what we're looking for. So, you know, in today's world, apparently we've got about 7 or 8 seconds to engage with somebody's attention span. And with millennials and Gen Zs not even knowing life before a smartphone, this whole search first relationship with us and our audiences is so critical and is just growing exponentially. So it's no longer okay to use this one size fits all approach and kind of, you know, throwing something at the wall and hoping that it sticks. So your success now, really, it's dependent on telling your story directly and in a really sort of compelling way that's authentic, and it's giving people a reason to trust you and choose you before they even engage with you or click on some piece of content that you've served up to them. And that content really needs to earn the right to be there. So I'm going to talk about this earning the rights to be on Google's page one and becoming what you call an authority in your field, or to be seen as a specialist in what you do. So I talk about this two-way fair value exchange. It really is this these days. I will give you my time out of my busy schedule and attention if you give something back to me in return. And that's not necessarily a monetary thing. It might be an offer or a 50% off, a starter pack or something like that. But really it's about what is the value that I'm going to get if I give you my name, my number, my email address, or just 5 moments of my time. What will I get in exchange? And this is where I want to start talking about a fresh approach to your marketing. So, and it's an integrated approach, and taking this approach, and this is something that I've kind of developed, and it's evolved over the years of working across a variety of clients. And it's kind of a merge and a mashup of traditional marketing and comms functions and activities, and SEO and some other more digital focused activities. And what it'll do, it will help find and accurately target the people who are searching for you now. It's going to clearly define what your customers want to know. So rather than what you think they want to know, this helps you really understand and get clarity on what people are searching for and what they do want to know. It helps allow you to become an authority in your field, and therefore reach that page one and actually stay in control of what messages you're putting out there. And my favorite, and Amari will probably be smiling right now, but this will help put an end to what I call random acts of content. And we'll go into that a little bit. Yeah. And, you know, deliver really relevant, engaging content straight to your audience. So your hottest and most qualified leads are searching for you right now. As we are in this moment together, there are people looking for you and your business right now. But if you're not on the first page of their natural search results, so that's anything that's unpaid, not Google ads, not Facebook sponsored ads. So unless you're starting to show up naturally in those search results and sort of carving out your digital footprint for them to actually find you, you're missing out. So let's talk about Google. So it's the #1 place people go first when researching anything. I mean, we can all vouch for that. And some staggering stats, 92% of web searches, that's Google in most Western markets. And they're serving up about 3.5 billion search queries globally every day. So that's about 40,000 search queries per second. It's kind of staggering. So, you know, the way I look at Google is it is the largest media property in the world by any metric that you choose. And also it's one of the most trusted information sources. And we know that 80% of people who use Google will click on that organic search result at the top of the page rather than the paid ads. I don't know about you. I mean, I do it. I mean, we all do it. So 80% of people do it. And a tiny number, 4% of people who search Google will go to the page 2 or page 3, only a 4%. So that's the real estate you want to be on. So, and it tells us that people, they really want quality and they want really sharp topic quality, organic content, and something that's earned its place in their search results. So content and Google, I'm going to put, you know, Google needs to become your best friend, basically. Content and Google should be at the heart of your marketing plan. And nowadays, most brands, big ones and small ones, are creating content that really matters. They are putting a lot of time and energy now into creating good quality content. And this matters because Google's algorithms reward us for creating great content. They want to offer the best search experience for us. And to do that, they need to serve up to us first the most specialized, the most quality and relevant content they can find. So, but to become an authority and to make it onto page 1, it takes a bit of creativity and data. So a little bit of art and a bit of science. And I'm going to go into that today. And so they reward us and elevate us based on 4 key areas, okay? The first is backlinks. And if you think of a trunk of the tree, the trunk of the tree is your website, and the branches expanding from your website are backlinks. It's basically a link back to your website from a third-party website. So for example, you might have a business listing on a local directory. That's a backlink. You might get a mention in a New Zealand Herald press article. Whoop, whoop, that'd be amazing. Back to your website, that's a backlink. So #1, backlinks. #2 is what you call technical SEO. And this is making sure your website from the back end is as clean and ready for Google to come and index and look at and sort of register your content as possible. So that's called technical SEO. #3 is obviously user experience. We're all kind of we hear this term, it's drummed into us now. What is the user experience? It should be at the forefront. And #4 is quality content and keywords. I'm going to go into this a bit more, so bear with me. So if you just remember that Google sends billions of visitors to websites every day through organic search. And so if we want a slice of that pie, we really have to start to think wider and bigger than just your product pages on your storefront or long form copy, all those blogs that you're putting up every day, which are incredible, by the way, but we've got to think bigger than that. So there's 3 factors here that will determine your position. So the topics and the keywords, the strength of your website, which I'm going to go into, and then the way that you organize your content. Okay, should we start with keyword research? So I think one thing to remember, and I talk about this a lot, is that we can't do guessing games. We don't need to now. With this day of digital and data, we can actually pull some really incredible insights to build out our plan and understand our customers. And so just because you think it might be a good idea to produce content on a specific topic, it doesn't necessarily mean people want that. So it really is about doing your homework. And there are some free tools out there that you can use to test whether your content's worth producing at all. And actually, I will provide Anna Murray a sort of a toolkit and some, a summary of links and things that can help you after the session. But there's some free tools out there. There's Google Keyword Planner. There's you may have already used that. There's a couple of great sites. Answer the Public is one that I love using, and Ahrefs is some more technical tools. But they're all within reach for us when you're doing your planning. So keyword research. There's this thing called domain authority, and a lot of my clients or people I talk to just have never heard of this. But it's a score that's developed by a company called moz.com, who are incredible specialists in SEO. And it predicts how well a website will rank on search engines and in result pages, okay? And the score ranges from 1 to 100. With the higher you are, the greater ability you'll have to rank. And if you had a DA of 60, you'd be just humming. That would be a very good score. Something like the New Zealand Herald or the BBC, they are in the 90s. And generally speaking, a lot of businesses that I work with are in the kind of about 20. But it provides a good guide of what you can realistically compete for in terms of topics and things on Google's first page, depending on the domain authority you have. And to grow your domain authority, it is all about those 4 elements I mentioned earlier. And it's definitely about ranking keywords, backlinks, and providing really good content in the eyes of Google. And you can find out what your DA is very easily. And you can look at your competitors, which is really interesting, I find, or anyone else that you're interested by, for that matter, by installing this toolbar through Moz, and it's free. So you can discover what your DA is very easily. And then it comes down to the right content and your keywords. And, your content has to be relevant to the search engines, and your website must be seen to be credible and really well organized in the eyes of these search engines. So how does this all work? By the end of this, you're going to be sick of me saying about a content plan, but so this all works with a structured process and a content plan, and that way you grow your digital voice, and then you're going to create tangible, measurable results for your business. And this is where I want to step through it. So you have an integrated plan. You've done your on-site SEO, your website's clean. You're focused on building some links to your website. You've got some really relevant, compelling topics that you want to talk about. You've got your keywords identified. You know what you're going to measure. And all of that is the equation for Google authority status and what we call an omnipresence. And we want to say no to rack. So no more random acts of content. And actually, it was this is a really good but geeky stat that I love discovering, and it was that the good news is now that 82% of marketers are using content marketing in 21, and that's up 70% from last year. And there was a stat back in 2017 where about 60% of people were not using content marketing at all, or didn't have any kind of plan. So that's really positive. All right, hopefully you're still with me. Now, I want to go through my approach. This is something that I've kind of developed over this kind of up to 20 years in my career, and agency side and client side, and then working inside various businesses, large and small, and it's a proven step-by-step approach to doing this. So the first 2 steps are you're going to audit and look at your footprint, how it exists now. What is your digital footprint like at the moment? What are your social channels looking like? And a few other key areas. Site fixes, so SEO on your website, which is one of your biggest assets, no doubt, is your website. Number 3 is creating this content strategy I keep talking about, and I've got a planning wheel or a tool that I use to do that. I'm going to walk you through that. Keyword list, developing that. You need at least 5 to 10 keywords for your business, and you should have that list. Channels, where are you going to go with your content? Where are you going to put it? Where does it live? Content hubs, so how we put this content together in a way that is structured and easy to navigate. And then the last one is, what are your success measures? So the first thing, audit and SEO, you need to tidy your house. So review your digital footprint. Have you got all your social media channels in line? Do they represent your brand? Are they active? Are you active in there? An SEO audit to sort of lift the lid on the back end of your website, identify any opportunities to optimize and clean it up, and then obviously fix those issues. And then we head into this content plan. So having a content plan is basically one smart sort of plan to help you stay focused. You know what your objectives are, and how you're going to, what you're going to create your content on, how you're going to distribute it, and who your audience is. And this planning wheel I'm going to show you next is basically a way of including all of these things, like all your critical outcomes that you want to achieve, into one smart page plan. Now, don't feel overwhelmed. It's more simple than it looks. It's like an onion. Basically, we peel away the layers. So this is a really simple way to identify what you need to make and how you're going to distribute it, basically. So the center of the wheel is your objectives. So this is it could be 1 or 2 things, but it might be that you're doing a content plan for a whole year, or you might want to just do a plan for one campaign. You might be launching a new product. You want to promote a certain service. So this wheel's really handy to use. It doesn't have to just be for the really long-term view. It could just be, you could pull this out and do it for one small campaign at a time. So your objective is in the center. Then you want to identify your audience. So who are you targeting? Who do you want to reach for? Now, I've allowed quite a few in here, but thanks. Yeah, I've allowed a few audience segments, but you might just have one audience, unlikely, and if you have one audience, you might want to just dig a bit deeper. But as you identify your audiences, you start to carve out your segments of the wheel. So the next thing is your keywords. What are those keyword phrases that you need to target, that people are searching for? What is the next layer is your message. So can you compete? What is the message that you want to put out there, and how you're going to say it? And then the last thing is, what are the channels that you're going to be activating on? So you can imagine, once you start to really think this through, and you don't want to overthink, you create these segments in the wheel, and you can pull out one chunk, one segment, and build a mini content plan around one segment. And I'll show you how that goes. Okay. Keywords and topics are super key. So doing your research with this is fundamental to building your content plan and helping you get found. Before you even invest any time or valuable budget on producing. So there's two things that you should really ask yourself. Are people searching for or wanting what you're making? Do they want what you've got? You know, there's a Simon Sinek quote, I think. But so if they do, what do they want to know exactly? And can you serve it up to them in a compelling way? Or how are they likely to better receive it? All right, channels. I really want to lift the lid on channels because it's a super important key part of your plan. So once you've determined if there's demand for what you want to make and what you want to say, and can you compete with that using your keywords in those particular subject areas, then you're going to distribute it across a range of channels. Now, this is really key. Is disseminating your, dispersing your content across channels and getting exposure, earning backlinks, because your backlinks are basically seen as the highest quality recommendations by search engines. So what are your channels? Let's dive into this a little bit more. There's 4 main areas, okay? There's your owned channel, okay? So this is everything that you have made and you own. So anything relating to your business, your story, your products, and it's generally hosted on your website. So, and we'll go into that a bit further. Earned is any publicity or media you might get around your business or your brand generated. So, you might find yourself being interviewed for a local paper, or even anything online. So anything that is earned is anything from media is earned. So shared is also, I just like to plop this into the social media bucket. It's the channels you use to carry your content, your digital content out there. And paid, obviously, is anything that you pay for. Sponsoring a social media post on Instagram, boosting it, for a week, that's paid. Google AdWords, that's paid. Sponsorship, that's paid. And here is, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but this is a really good bird's eye view on what these channels, so from a tactical point of view, look like. So you're owned, as I mentioned, you've got your website, you might have a mobile app that's you owned, your blog posts, any newsletters or case studies you develop. This is the content you create and you house, and you own that. Earned, again, media pitching, any interviews you do, word of mouth, even recommendations and things like that. Awards that you've gained, that's all earned. And guest blogs, that's earned as well. Shared, like I said, it's social in a nutshell, really. So your usual suspects at the top, as well as webinars or podcasts, infographics, live streaming, like we're doing right now, and webinars, things like that. So that's shared. And then paid, again, is anything you pay to boost or amplify online. So social media ads, video and story ads, pay per click, obviously, is what we all know quite well, and then sponsorship. So I like to look at this sort of Venn diagram, and the sweet spot is in the middle, is when you know that you are sort of touching all of these points. That's integration, and that is an omnipresence if you are starting to own something in all of these channels. Right, and now I just want to talk about content hubs. This is super key, and some of you may already know about this and doing this well, but if not, I do want to dive into this a little bit and an approach to how I create a content hub. So it's basically a curated collection of content that you published, and it's related to a specific topic that you specialize in and you know well. And with the content hub and clusters, I call them, it's a really good way for your readers, potential clients, customers, and search engines to really quickly find the content that they're looking for. And I love the iceberg metaphor here. I think it really explains this. It's about building this foundational presence. And if you imagine the tip of the iceberg is your Google One placement, page one placement, underneath the surface, what you really don't see is all of that amazing, incredible content and content hubs using these keywords and lots of different formats across all various channels, builds this absolutely beautiful foundation for you to sort of leverage from. And I mean, I'd love to be able to really dive into this section, this particular section, but I've only got a certain amount of time, but hopefully I can kind of give you an idea of what a content hub and cluster looks like. And this is how I do it. You've got at the very core, at the center, you have a hero piece of content or topic, hero subject. So this is the biggest piece, and it's using the most competitive keyword phrase or what somebody's searching for. It's the biggest one there, and you start with that. I'm using an example, baby food, because it's just, it's a big pot. So let's say our hero topic is baby food. Then you're going to create 3 subtopics around that key topic. And these are, I've chosen organic baby food recipes, baby food safety. So those are my 3 subtopics of baby food. And the subtopics, you can write or create things like how-tos, FAQs, tips and tricks, or just really informative pieces of content. That's what you do with your subtopics. And off each subtopic, you want to create at least 3 supporting topics of that. A good example of supporting topics of this baby food recipes are baby food recipes. So I could be creating infographics. I could be creating mini videos on making homemade broccoli. So you need at least 3 supporting base topics off a subtopic. And then what I haven't added here, but I will mention, is off these subtopics, and of all of these parts of the hub, it's, okay, I've got the topic. What kind of content am I going to make? And where am I going to put it? And this is the beauty of a hub, is you can really mix it up, and you can start to think about how you're going to serve up that content to your potential audience. So going back, if you think back to, your channels, you've got video opportunities, you've got infographics, you've got blogs, you've got podcasts, you've got all of these incredible opportunities and to serve up our content to people. And I'll just say this, so this is an ideal scenario, okay? You want up to 13 pieces. You end up with 13 pieces of content per main keyword. That's the ideal outcome. Now, I know that's not achievable for everyone, but it's at least gives you kind of a foundation to work from. And remember, if you are going to create your biggest piece of content from the hero topic, let's use, it may be a downloadable on baby food. It could be an ebook on baby food. You can then take that hero piece of content and segment it and use it in different ways across these other parts of the hub. So that's your hub. Now, the next thing are your measures. So in this day and age, we need to know what's working and what's not. We need to know what we're paying for and what we should pay for or not pay for. And to do that, you need success measures in place for everything. So once you've set your plan up and it's in motion, it's really important to track your progress, measure these results so that you get really firm insights, not just vanity metrics. We love likes and we love followers and we love likes, but it's not so much about vanity metrics these days. We want to find insights and action, things that we can action inside our strategy that will help transform what you do next. And it's just going to have a much bigger impact on your business. You want eyes wide open. You really need to see what's working and what's not working. And the beauty of digital is that we can track everything. So these are some samples of some success measures I would have in place for a content strategy. So we want to grow our domain authority over 20 and rise above our competitors. You might want to achieve page 1 status for 3 of your keywords in your first quarter next year. You want to get X amount of high quality backlinks to your website. And of course, we all want this. We want to increase traffic, overall web traffic, and we want to nurture really good quality leads. So by following a content plan and using this integrated approach I've sort of touched on your key channels, so owned, earned, shared, and paid, mixed with this sort of intelligent lead generation systems and some really good, solid, clean SEO, you can succeed online. And, those that are really making it in this digital kind of landscape, which is so busy and so many layers, are the ones that are creating really consistent content with a consistent voice across all their channels, and just putting content at the heart of their plan and making it sort of immersive and exciting and interesting, and giving customers a bit of an experience, even if it's a simple experience, like ordering a product online and getting that user experience, which we think, well, yes, it should be a good experience. It's everybody knows that. Well, make sure you're delivering that from the moment they land on you, or the moment they see your content online, through to the time they put something into their cart, or they phone you and order it, want a quote. We want to keep them coming back for more. And telling your story really should be one of your top priorities. And I say this to a lot of clients, it's so important. There is always a way to tell your story, and if you do it in the right way, people want to listen. And it's I think if there's one thing from today, I think you should think about, do we tell our story? Is it compelling? Is it visible? Yeah, so ask yourself that question. And finally, an outcome for me today from this is it is a really big topic. It's a big subject, and you can see we could really dive in there on lots of layers. And I can do that, and I do that with my clients. But an outcome for me today would be, if you come away from this and don't feel too intimidated at these concepts, that you understand that it takes an integrated approach and sort of a top-down. There is a reason for every step you take. And if you walk away asking yourself a few questions, or it's making you think about some of the things you have or haven't done in your business, and what you're going to focus your energy on in the coming time. And of course, I am always here. If there is any specific questions, I'd love to answer them. But Anna Murray, I know we're going to step into some time on Q&A now, as I've covered a lot. So
you always do, Tracey. You always do. I think it's just, you could talk about this stuff underwater, really. Like, you're such an expert in this field, and so you just have so much great insight, and definitely lots of food for thought here, and lots of opportunity to rewatch. Like you said, okay, let me have a look at my business. What am I doing already? What am I not doing? And then just chip away at it a little bit at a time, which is really great advice. Yeah. We've had, of course, we had positive comments about this, and Tracey's going to be sharing her PPT, her slides with us as a PDF, and we will upload it onto the website as a learning summary. So you can go back and have a look at the slides, where there were some great diagrams throughout. That onion diagram was like super, comprehensive, and a great visual aid to really wrap your head around all of those things. So we really appreciate that. We do have a question here from Diamond, and it says, I'd like to work with professionals by the likes of Tracey to create a new website for my new web-based business idea I have. However, I'm afraid my business idea will get snapped up by someone else before I get a chance to launch by sharing my idea. What's your advice around that, please?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. I think the thing to remember is that if you are talking to professionals, then they will talk to you in a confidential manner. They know that it is in confidence. Now, there is something though more formalized that you can do before you engage with anybody, and that's called a NDA agreement. So it's a non-disclosure agreement. So if you are really worried about, and you've got a really great idea and you do want to take the next steps, but you're concerned about that, I would get yourself an NDA, and whoever you talk to or engage with, if they are a professional, they will be very open to signing a form like that. And that just gives you a sense of a bit of peace of mind that your idea is safe. Yeah.
Now, where would you get something like, is that something you can just kind of get a free version online, or is it somewhere you need to actually seek a professional to draft that for you?
Yeah, Anna Marie, you can find NDAs online and tailor them, absolutely. And I can actually share one or two places I do have gone to or given to my clients. They're a pretty standard document. And it is, it's a legal document, but I can share a link if that's helpful.
That would be wonderful. We could drop that into the PDF or something like that, and people can download it. You connect with that link. That'd be fantastic.
Okay.
So we've got a question here from Jackie. It says, which system do you recommend to easily amplify content across multiple channels? Examples here: MailChimp, Hootsuite, Monday.com.
Yes. Oh, that's a great I love these questions. Okay, there's two parts to that, Jackie, to be honest. So there's your scheduling tool. So the thing that you load all your social media in for a month, you preload and activate that. So there's things that sort of stand alone, and then there are platforms like Monday.com where you can do everything all in one go. So I tend to recommend Hootsuite's a great platform if you are running a lot of content. And the reason I love Hootsuite is that you can do RS feeds, you can do social.
What does that mean? What's an RS feed?
It's like if you were doing to a subreddit, if you wanted it to go somewhere that's not your website or a social channel, you can kind of tailor it to other places where you want to send your content. And so the only thing with Hootsuite is paid, and it is a paid platform and it can be quite expensive. Now, a little tip that I will give is there is a site called appsumo.com. I highly recommend entrepreneurs, small to medium-sized business owners to check this site out. And what they do is they offer incredible deals on new, innovative new platforms and tools that we need to help us run our businesses. Some of them are in beta testing, okay? And so that means that they're still being tested and built. Some aren't, and some are just incredible deals. I just recently got a deal for a platform that pulls all your social, Google, everything into one place. And Jackie, in answer to your question, you can very, very easily create multi-channel campaigns through one dashboard, and it was very good. So I think it would be really, as part of what I send over to you, Anna Marie, I think a really good sort of baseline list of the tools that I'd use for content and social planning might be worth.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. And now I've just dropped the link to AppSumo in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
On all the platforms. So no matter where you are, you can check that out.
Yeah, really great deals, amazing deals. One key thing is to just make sure you read the reviews and go to some top ranking reviews. You'll be fine.
Okay, another question here. How long does a backlink stay active or useful? For example, will a link from a Yellow Pages listing stay juicy longer than a link from a newspaper article 10 years ago?
That's a really great question. And, backlinks kind of stick around. They stick around for a while. And if there's something you don't want, you can ask to get it removed, but it is quite a difficult process. So, and a link is we talk about link juice, and a really solid link would be something like an article on the NZ Herald that is released, and it's all about traffic, and it's about relevancy, traffic, and keywords. So I would say a listing and a directory listing wouldn't hold quite the weight of an active article on something like the Herald. Yeah, but the short answer is the links stay around; they don't disappear.
Now, would you recommend, if you wanted to write some articles, and submit them to possibly places like Stuff or, NZ Herald, how do you do that? Like, how do you go about that?
So, pitching ideas is such a great way to try and build links. And whoever's asked that question is it's a great question. And so you can pitch your ideas if it's something topical or something that you think is newsworthy. You basically pitch your idea to the editorial team, and there is a list of people. You can find your way in. It can be difficult. One place I recommend and look at all the time, but it is US based. It's wider than that, but it's called haro.com, HARO.com. And it basically is a summary of journos, websites, news places looking for content contribution around certain topics. So I get that every morning into my inbox. I scan it. I look if there's anything that I would be a specialist in that I could talk about. And then I reply to them. I pitch my idea. And if they want you, they'll ask you to expand. And then boom, you've got a link. It's a really great way of building links. Here in New Zealand, though, it is slightly harder, but there are a couple of places that you can go. Twitter, believe it or not. If there's a few Twitter handles in New Zealand where journalists, writers, websites are looking for content and specialists. So again, we need to write a list, Anna Murray. We need to add that one to the list as well.
I just dropped a thing in the chat, but don't freak out, anyone, because I had it on, I don't know, it put me to Scandinavia. So it wasn't in English, and I was going, what's going on? You can actually choose what language and what country. That's quite cool that you'd like to have a look at. And there's quite a list here.
Yes. And great. It's just fantastic. So it'll send in, anything. It will be industry based. So I would recommend, if you want to try and build links and you have a topic that you're really, a specialist in, have a look. Have a look, try.
Great. You always have the best advice. I love it. So that's awesome. I'm going to check that out myself, actually, because I quite like writing. So
definitely do.
Some of us like to write, and that can be quite cool.
Absolutely.
So many thanks. One more question, please. Absolutely. You are more than welcome. We've got plenty of time, so don't feel like you have to dart off. It says, I've found 2 websites that I really think would work well with my business with their offerings, user friendliness, etc. Are there any restraints on how similar my website could be compared to theirs? I.e., could I literally copy their layout, etc., and give it my own fresh look? Ooh.
That's a great question with kind of different parts to it that I need to address. I think the first is, there is a saying that, it's the highest form of flattery. Copying is the highest form of flattery. And I think when it comes to creative inspirations, copying design and that kind of aesthetic based things, it's very hard to copyright that kind of thing. Like, I think it's important to remember you wouldn't want to cookie cut, especially when it comes to design. But if there's something with the user experience you love, functionality, and then some visual cues, then, take inspiration from that. I don't see a problem with that. It's when you're not creating something that's going to allow you to be unique and in your own lane and have ownership over your own brand, that would be a big question mark for me. So that's the creative side of things. Now, there is a technical thing too that's really key, is that Google does frown upon what they call duplicate content. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you went and, decided, I love that, I'm just going to put all of that on my website because it's so great, you'll more than likely be penalized by Google. And if that person that you did swipe a lot of that content from saw that, you could have a legal issue on your hands,
especially the copy. Like if you were to copy paste the copy, it's like SEO suicide.
It is SEO suicide. Thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself. So
don't do it. It's
so but look, good. I think we're human. We take inspiration from other things that we see and feel, and totally. And so I think it's take the things that inspire you and try and craft it or use it in your own way to be unique online. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a kind of ties that. It says, what are your thoughts on duplicated content? Well, it's not actually. What are your thoughts on duplicated content? We have a situation where we need to post updates from other service providers to our website, and it may not be ideal from a ranking perspective. Good question, Jackie.
Yeah, great question, Jackie. There is actually something you can do on those pieces of content, and it's to do with the URL, and it's a thing that your chronological links, they're called. Gosh, it sounds so technical. But when you're doing that, it's something you do when you load it to your website, Jackie. So, and what that does is it sends a signal to Google, basically. And the other thing to remember is something like that. It's kind of obvious that you are advocating, for someone else, using it. It's something that is, So if you make sure it's really obvious that piece of content, you're not saying you own it, that it is something you are actually using as an advocate in a sort of an advocacy way. And then there is a technical thing that you can do once you load it to your site.
I'm just looking up that topic just so that I just don't know how to spell that actually, Tracey.
Yeah.
I just wanted so that people could do a little bit of self-research.
Yeah. It's CAN. Hang on a minute. I don't want to get you wrong.
I wasn't sure if it's CAN. Yep.
ONICAL.
Canonical links,
yes,
is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to pop that in for everybody who.
Please do, because it really will help when you're starting to build out a lot of content that like this. Yes, and because I talk about your website being a living, breathing thing almost, and if you're doing it right and you are loading all that content, it's not just content that you've created yourself. We want to pull in things that are inspiring us, or we might have a partnership arrangement, so there needs to be ways to get around that.
Oh, all right. I'm just trying to canonical.
Canological. Sorry.
I'm trying to do it across channels. I'll do that in a second when I can.
It's so good, Anna Marie, how you do that. Oh my goodness. Okay.
You are very welcome.
If you type in canonical.
That's why I'm struggling, is because I am struggling to pronounce it.
CANONICAL link element. If you that's your
got it
key phrase.
Okay,
you'll find what you need. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I actually have never heard it. I've never heard of that before. So thank you so much. Always a wealth of knowledge as usual. And I'll just drop that in YouTube. There we go. All right, cool. Back to the session. So right now,
such great questions.
Cool. Yeah. And I feel like that is, where are we? I'm jumping out. I think that's actually us, because I'm just having a look across the various platforms and I can see folks watching, but I don't see any questions. So I think we should be okay.
Hi.
So this has been fabulous. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do with this content, this information. And I know that a lot of us are on LinkedIn connect with us on LinkedIn, show us what you're working with. We want to see, we want to see what you're actually doing. So it says, are there any website builders you'd recommend? Ooh, a loaded question.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Do you mean platforms to use?
I think possibly like Shopify, WordPress, like all of those. Wix.
Yeah, well, I'm a huge fan of WordPress and Shopify for e-commerce. So WordPress for building any website. And the reason I say WordPress is because it just will grow with you. If you're starting small, or you just, and you want something that can very easily and quickly evolve with you, and you can also get great developers to help you with that WordPress. And they also have WooCommerce, which is their e-commerce side of it. And then, of course, if it's about e-commerce, then I would highly recommend Shopify as well. I'm sort of both of those platforms work very well. And don't forget, if you have a very simple deliverable in terms of your website, and you have a really strong visual, and you want to make something that is exactly as you see it, don't forget these days you can still create your visuals and then get a developer to build that, and code it from the ground up. But again, I think if you want something that's, agile and it's going to be easy to evolve and move with you and grow as your business grows, something like WordPress is very good.
And we've done a lot of sessions on like the various platforms, Shopify comes on. Yeah. We don't have a representative from WordPress, but we've had a few folks who actually are experts with WordPress come on. So we've done some sessions with Stealth Digital that they build WordPress sites. And then we actually did one with Jesse Siegel, who was a member of the Digital Booth team. He did a session quite a long time ago on WordPress. So it is one of those platforms where it's not like, I'm just going to speak from my experience. It's not like you may need a little bit of tinkering around with it. You may need a little bit of support. It's not the most intuitive platform in the sense that a lot of people find Shopify and some of those other platforms really easy to use. And it's because WordPress has so many features. It has so much capability that sometimes people feel a bit overwhelmed with building that. I've heard, from just speaking with a lot of folks, but you're absolutely right. It can grow with you. You can really do add-ons with almost anything you want to do. We recently did a session on building an online program. So people who wanted to teach things online and have that content online. And, that's, you can't really do that on some of the other platforms. So it really depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, I think something like, if you're attaching a learning management system, which seems to be a really hot topic at the moment, I have to say, or you're a coach and you're wanting to deliver those sorts of things, then WordPress is great for building that out. There are other things like Kajabi and other full-blown platforms specifically for that, though. Yes, so that's a good one there.
Question, what are your thoughts on Silver Stripe? Now, I don't know what Silver Stripe is, so I'm going to learn something here.
So the actual platform, the development platform?
I'm sure.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I haven't had a huge amount of experience in Silver Stripe, but there is still obviously a lot of developers out there and types of coding that exists and is being used. And as far as I know, in my experience, Silver Stripe it's still being used quite extensively, but I can't speak from personal experience on that one.
Is it a website builder? Is that what it is? I don't even know what it is.
It's a type of, I'm just going to double check. It's a type of coding, isn't it? It's a language. It's a code language, isn't it?
Interesting.
But I think it's,
This is how we learn now.
Fine. Yeah. It's open source. That's why it's a CMS and it's open source.
There we go. Yep.
Can I just say on that, Anna Marie, that's a whole big topic, is creating a CMS. And so whether it's Silver Stripe, whether it's whatever you are having it built in, you just need a really solid plan before you hit up anything like that. I'm actually going to make a note of that one because I haven't looked into that.
Yeah, cool. And we've got one more question, and then that'll be asked because we're out of time, which I knew would happen because I knew that there'd be lots of questions that you could answer. So very cool. So it says, great, thanks. I'm literally starting from scratch and would like to open a new website. I've never done this before, but know almost exactly how I want it to look and operate, but just don't know where to start. Yeah, look, it's have a play, have a play around with it. You can always have a play. Remember, WordPress, you do need to have a host. So for example, Shopify, you set it up, you get your domain, it all shoots out from Shopify. You don't need to have somebody host your domain, your domain, right? You don't need to have somebody host your
That's
website.
Right. You can have it all through Shopify. There's other ones like Wix and Squarespace and those kinds of sites. It just really depends on what you're delivering and what you want to put out there.
Yeah. Whereas WordPress, you do need to have somebody host you. But that being said, you own your WordPress site, like you can take it to somebody else to host it, and we chatted about that in a few sessions. If you'd like more information, because it seems like this is something that you're really deliberating about and you might want to have a conversation with somebody about, contact support at digitalboost.co.nz. They'll be happy to jump on the phone with you, kind of have a conversation about what you're trying to do, and it will be completely confidential, and they will make some suggestions and kind of ask you some questions that might help you to make your own decision on which direction you'd like to go. We're not going to decide for you. We are like a place. We are Switzerland, we don't prefer any one site over the other, but we will give you advice based on what your criteria is that you're looking for and help you to come to that.
I would just say too, when you're about to launch into any of those sorts of things, make sure you have in your mind what you're willing to pay to get it made, whether it's in your own time and you're doing that yourself, or you are going to look to get some help, because it can be absolutely end up being a sort of a leaky bucket. So just make sure you have an idea and then and a solid plan on what you want to make.
That's a great advice, because we often, I've known people who have hired somebody to do something, they haven't put a cap on it, and then it just keeps on, the bill keeps growing, and eventually that person got to the point where they couldn't afford their site. So they it just sat there, it wasn't completed. So make sure that you do specify that. Awesome, greatly appreciated. Thanks. You're both super great. And yes, I certainly follow up. Please do. We're so grateful to have you here. Thanks so much for all the great questions and the positive feedback. Tracey, I know we're going to try and book some more sessions with you, because you've got the goods and we want them. And I hope you have a fabulous day. We've enjoyed so much having you on with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, it's a real pleasure to contribute, and thanks to everybody for having me. It's been great. Thanks, Anna.
Our pleasure. Have a wonderful